Hello, welcome to Floyd Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Fly's 132nd range of Wessexes. Now we do two, we've got the actual HC2 and down here we've got the UH5, also known as the RAF version and the Royal Navy. Now I'll be honest with you, when I first heard those doing a 132nd Wessex, I must admit I did think, yeah right, never see one. Okay, then I heard Fly were doing it and I'm thinking, who's Fly? Never heard of them. Okay, all the rest of it. So that was a few months ago. And it went a little bit quiet, and then all of a sudden, bang, they're here. And at the time I was thinking, Fly, obviously going to be a short run kit. It's not going to be much co-op. It's going to need loads of aftermarket bits and pieces to try and bring it up to speed. They're not going to be available. And I was being a complete doubting Thomas, if you like, okay. Then I got to see one. Now, to be honest, got this one a couple of weeks ago, and then I heard that they're actually doing a Royal Navy one, and this was around about the time of Telford, and I got to see a glimpse of it, and I thought, absolutely amazing. Then we've actually got it. So what I've done is we've got both kits here so we can have a quick look at them. Now, there isn't much differences between the two. It's obviously, we've got the RAF version down here. We'll have a look through the instructions of it, but basically we're going to look at this one because it is roughly the same kit with some obviously minor changes between the HC2 version and the UH5 down here. So, okay, down here in the actual kit itself, we just zoom this camera down, we can see we've got some beautiful box art showing the Royal Navy one and that gorgeous green. Okay, so down here, so this is your Fly kit. Now this is 32010 is obviously the one for the RAF version, and we've got the number 11 down here, so it's 320 there, 11. Okay, there's our little bit about it. In cooperation with, seems to be the latest buzz thing. Okay, and down, and this is the screen. So obviously you always see RAF yellow, rescue, and all the rest of it we see down there. We see it in the sort of helicopter drab colour, a little bit different obviously with that nice red we see on the front, and then obviously got the Royal Navy one, which is the one I love, with the Union Jack wrapped down the front, and obviously that standard Royal Navy blue, and then we've got the actual colours down back. So very, very nice, being an ace of clubs. All right. So if we have a look in the back, obviously there's nothing on the back because it's a box. So get in here. Oh. So in the box itself, straight off the bat, you can see, give you a sense of scale, the size of this thing. This isn't a small helicopter. The Wessex is actually a very large, very impressive helicopter. So down in here we have got a ton of gear. So as always, we're going to start with in here. So in this pack here, we've got a beautiful pack in a little zippy bag. So we get this guy open. Right. So down in here, we've actually got numerous things. So if we start just down here with our little instruction book, okay. So, usual thing, we've got the parts on the sprues and the call-outs. So it's nice that we've got the actual numbers next to them down here, which makes things a lot easier to find. Clear parts obviously showing down here, resin parts down here in red. Paper parts, as we were saying, 'cause it's quite nice, we've got paper seat belts and harnesses, things like that. Then we've actually got the decals. So again, really, really nice. Photo etch down here. So as you can see, it's what we call a mixed media kit. And then you're straight to the construction. So it's quite a small little booklet, this one. Okay, but it's nicely printed. So usual thing, we've got going down here on the inside, putting in the formal work, all the internal details into the mold, which is something we'll talk about in a moment. You can see lots of little bits going down in here, bits that needed to be cut out and put in. Okay, so you're actually making the cabin work. Then we've got the cabin walls, things like that, the floor, various parts going in, more internal details going in. Then something you don't see very often, we've got these paper parts, PP being a paper part. They need to be folded and put in to the actual seat itself. Makes you wonder about actually putting wet PVA glue over them to get them to shrink and sag and all the rest of it. If you water down PVA glue and put it on top, I don't know how will it work it being printed, but it is a technique you can do. We've got some photo etch parts down in here, so obviously for the harnesses, you actually got the metal parts on there just like that. Okay, and then you're working in. So anywhere with PR, Okay, these are going to be resin pieces going down here, making up the rotor head, okay, and everything in. Then you're back down to the seats, adding detail to all the seats. As you can see, truly mixed media kits, starting off with the basic parts and then adding them. So you've got resin seats going down there, and then obviously you've got your paper part harnesses, and then your photo etch for the actual metal parts of the harness itself, okay. Then we've got more parts going in there, so we've got the little bulkhead behind the seats, instrument panels, consoles, okay, and all those areas, as you can imagine, going in there just like that. And then more work going in, adding all the detail, the screws, the strengtheners, and everything else down this one to the actual inside of the cockpit. Lots of detail going in here, sorry, the crew cabin. All right, but it's nicely color coded so we can see what is photo etch, what is clear parts, and various other things. As you can see, all these areas going down in here. The tail wheel assembly, as you can see, lots of parts down there, as you're making your way right the way through the entire build. All the fuel lines and everything going underneath, okay, all the lumps, bumps, and as you can imagine, the bits and pieces you find underneath a Wessex, okay. Then all the external parts going on, obviously the all important grab handles getting in and out of this thing, around the tail and the front and the areas and all the different parts going in there. The front section's all going in, so as you can imagine, we've got the nose section, the exhausts, okay, and all those different parts all going in. Beautifully done. As you can imagine, numerous in their number. This is what we mean about the sort of short run kits. They tend to be very lacking on plastic detail, but made up with photo etch, and then obviously all the aftermarket parts that go in there with resin and things like that. Again, lots of parts all going over these. And as you can imagine, down on the tail, we've got lots of different various items going down there. Lots of bits of photo etch, a little bit of resin, things like that, as we go down there, just like that. And then the tail section being put on, fixed to. So obviously, I imagine you can have it as a separate for the tail fold, okay. And then obviously with the rotor section up on the top, don't know if you can have it as a folded rotor set on this one. Looking at the way it's designed, I don't think it would take much to do it. You might actually be able to fold these up somewhat. Okay, and then down in there just like that, okay. As you can imagine, very, very detailed, okay. So looking down, we have photo etch parts, as you can see, numerous in number. They look incredibly thin just by feeling. I'm not going to get it out, okay. And on the other side, so we've got that nice grille work. These are your actual seats, which actually, they looks like they're actually on a fabric rather than paper. Okay, which is quite a nice touch. All right, then we've got the color callouts. Okay, so we've got the parrot scheme just down like that one. Callouts in AK, a little bit different, and your Humbrol to make it a bit easier. Okay, and there's the one that I intend to do, which we're going to do sometime in the spring or the summer. We'll be doing this kit. This is the one I'd like to do. And then obviously we've got the standard, the RAF yellow, and the Royal Navy with the green. And then your blade colour, obviously just down there like that. Very nice done, very nicely printed. Decals themselves, no protective sheet, which I'm surprised about. Okay, but there we go. This is the one we got. These look like, I'm just seeing if there's any printer's name on these. Doesn't look like there is, but they do look very nicely done indeed. They look quite thin. Can't see any registrational problems or anything else. Can't see any problems. They all look very nice. All the wording is nice and clear, it's all readable and everything else like that. Generally very nice. And to say, for the parrot scheme, you obviously got the gold banding right the way through. Beautifully done as well, very nicely done. And then down here we've got the Royal Navy, Royal Air Force, you can imagine, and the nose step, very nicely done. Very good. Right, okay, so where are we going to start? Let's start in here. So one bag with all your, or two bags it'll be. This has got all your parts. Now, okay, limited run kits, what are you expecting? You're expecting not a lot of detail, and usually, and I think this is going to be pretty much similar, you tend to get the detail all on one side. So their kits tend to have a face side, okay, and then the inside doesn't tend to have much. This is a classic example of what I'm talking about. So, down in here, hopefully you can see, you've got fantastic ribbon detail. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't a sharp, we're not talking Tamiya or something else like that, but it is all here. All right, so it is very nicely done, it is all in place, okay. Some of it does fade away admittedly to nothing, which is a little bit of a poor show, but this is what we're talking about by a limited run kit. So down in here it's a little bit scrappy, it's a little bit flashy and all things like that, all right? But generally this is all stuff we can work with. We're modelers after all, so we should be able to fix most problems. We've got ejector pins in the inside, okay? Obviously the ones around here are going to have to be taken care of, but hopefully you can see if I catch it in the light. There we go. This is where all that sprue is going to go in there and make up the formers for all the inside of the cabin work, okay, and all the rest of it like that. So generally there's only a few little ones just down in here to take care of. The rest of them in the back we're not going to worry about, all right? But generally, hopefully you catch it in the light, you can see all this riveting. It's numerous in number and it's pretty accurate exactly where it all is, okay? So that's very nice to see. Don't forget, we haven't seen a Wessex in this scale. You know, we've only seen 1/48 ones recently. Okay, that all famous front of a Wessex, that chin, all right, as you can see, some very nice jobs down in here, and I'm sure the scratch builders will be in here adding an engines and various things down here in the cooling area, all right, and all those areas, beautifully done, some nice details, catching it in the light. As you can see, all of these very nicely done. And then obviously the parts are going to be what they are, which is quite organic, okay? You can see down here, we've got the scrape for the footwells, various things in there. Nothing you'd write home about. Most of the parts are big, clunky, a little bit flashy, okay? But this is where we're going to forgive it. Short run kits tend to be like this, okay? But I can't see any problems with them that aren't going to need a bit of a clean up. Short run kits as well, the burring we talk about, the sandwich, pretty heavy, all right? So you're going to have to get in here. There's piping work down here. It's covered in flash almost from the burring. Scrape clean, it'll be absolutely fine, no problem at all. Okay, we'll come to those in a minute. So then down here we've got the underside of the Wessex. You can see some nice job. The thing is I like about this, the Wessex is what it is. It's quite a chunky, robust, heavy helicopter. This moulding is very similar to that as well, so in some ways you can sort of forgive it. It's going to add texture, it's going to add, you know, a detail to your model, okay, that perhaps if it was pristine and correct and everything else, you might lose that. So in some ways I can forgive a lot of this stuff down here, but you're catching it in the light, you can see some nice details down in here. Obviously we've got the cabin floor, so we've got all the access ports down into the floor, as you can see them running all around there. We've got all of this insulation and soundproofing, nicely textured, okay, the bulkheads, the various parts, okay. Blind side, as we know, is technically blind on these kits. Tail, okay, so we're looking up at the tail, you can see, again, very nice details in all of these, no problem at all, all right. Some fantastic detail gone into it, actually. Nicely done. Blindsided, a little bit, a tiny bit of detail from the inside, which will show, but tail planes. Now, we've got here 3 instrument panels, so we're assuming perhaps there's another version of this coming out somewhere along the line, okay, because we've got 3 types of instrument panels down in there, so I'm expecting perhaps 3 versions, okay. And again, on the blind side, nothing really happening on here. A little bit of detail perhaps on the rotor. Might need a little bit of sharpening up. The moulds aren't exactly polished, so they might need a little bit of detail work. Okay. And unfortunately, all of this riveting would technically be raised, and it's all recessed on here. But as I say, I don't know, it might be too thin to take a wash. Might need to actually re-rivet a lot of this detail if we're honest on the smaller parts. The larger ones I think we can get away with, but some of these smaller parts I think we're going to have a few problems doing. Generally I don't think they're too bad at all. Some nice details down in there, hopefully, as you can see. The rotors I've got pre-moulded in sag, as you can see, that's why they're in that nice curve, which is quite a nice touch. Again, you know, giving you a feel for how big this is, put my hand next to it, you know, you can actually see how big this is. It's going to be quite large helicopter. Imagine with the rotor span on this, it's going to be sort of like a, you know, a 1/35 hind type of rotor sake on this one. So not too bad. 2-part exhausts, big ejector pin in the middle, which you need to take care of. But generally, I'm just looking around here. I can't find any faults with it. It is what it is. It's a limited run kit. It's a little bit chunky. You know, all these blades are going to need to be taken care of. They're going to need to be cleaned up. There's a bit of a chunk out of this guy as well, out of this particular one, which is a little bit nasty. Be interesting to see. This is obviously a match pair with the second one. Yeah, there's a chunk out of that one. It's obviously the mould All right, but I think we're going to be okay. I think with a bit of a clean up, bit of TLC with this kit, it should be absolutely fine, no problem at all. Okay, last bit of, this is probably the part that's going to be different to the other one. I'm not going to bother getting it out. This is probably going to be the navy bit, if you like. So it's got the aerials, the grab handles. It might be the same on the other kit. We'll have a quick look just to check. But generally, as you can see, just like that. Now, mixed media. We are talking about this stuff. So down in here, we've got a couple of bags of resin. So if we have a look around in here, this is normally where the kit itself, you always imagine limited run kits to be very basic, okay? All the detail is going to be in here. We looked at a couple of them before. We looked at the Special Hobby X15 last week, things like that. And generally, you know, the kit itself, it is what it is. It's nothing special. Put the resin in there, it pops. This is where we are just about to pop. So if we start down in here, as you can see, we've got some beautiful, this is the back of the Wessex itself. This is down here on the back of it. All right, very nice, very thing. I have got a couple of chunks out of mine, if we're honest, which is a little bit annoying. Got a bit there's about to break off, and I think a lot of this is because it's been put in a big bag. It gets thrown around in transit, and things do get knocked, which has always been a bit of a bugbear of mine. But I think, you know, you could just get away with that as being a little bit of damage on an older helicopter. But if you wanted something pristine, would be a little bit annoying, okay? So we've got that one. We've got the nose with the bag on the front. Looking very nice, very Wessex-like, as you can imagine. Okay. And then we've got, what have we got down here? So we've got, this is the door caps. Cylinder on the front, but they're solid all the way through. These are the runners that sort of run down here on the front where it's got Royal Navy on. All right, we've actually got the rotor gearbox, the main gearbox on the top. Again, a little bit tidy up required, perhaps a little bit more wiring, things like that, but it's generally there to start. Okay, the wheels, unfortunately they're not weight on wheels, and these really do sag. Okay, and they've got Dunlop on them. Okay, so we've got the braking system down on the inside, nicely done. Two different colours, two different mould shots. Okay, but generally quite nicely done. Tail wheel, again not weighted, and it's going to need drilling out as well. Okay, and then we've got, these are the parts for the rotor head itself. These are where the rotors actually attach to the point. Quite nice detail, big chunky riveting showing through on those. Quite a nice touch. Two seats, resin seats. They're in one piece, as you can see. Some nice details on these, very nicely done. Okay, the rotors at the top. Okay, as you can see, coming down, all seem to be in one bit. A little bit chunky, but these are resin pull. Okay, got some blocks coming off just like that. Okay, then in the other bag we actually have, okay, this is various details on this one. I've got to work out where they all are. So we've got the instrument and the collective, or part of the collective down there, so that's the center console. Okay, then we've also got another part of console down there as well. It's quite a nice touch. And side console, I think, well, it could be the inner console. Both together. Two different types of consoles down there. Slightly different types. Okay, some of the other parts. So we've got some handles, little parts, bits and pieces down there. Again, nicely done, nicely moulded. Coil pack down there. Very nicely done. All these parts are all still on the thing. Got a couple missing, which is obviously this guy here. This is why I never throw away your little bits. I'm sure that's off of that one there. Again, that's what you get for chucking them all in a bag together. I do like it. Okay, there's your collective. Nicely done. Okay, again, shame, but they've all been snapped off. All the little handles on the throttles here. I assume this is the overhead. Could be the overhead. Things like that on those, but unfortunately they've all been snapped off. Quite a lot of the details on that particular bit have all been sheared off. Again, annoys the hell out of me, because they've been very slackly chucked in a bag. Okay, and some of the framework down there, on there, just like that. This is for the hoist, I think, on the top. but all these parts down here aren't rubbish. They're all bits that need to be used. So you're going to have to glue all of these back on. And this is the point where never throw away anything that sits off. Don't sneeze now. Don't do anything at all. Okay, the clear parts we actually have aren't the clearest of clear parts, but again, the Wessex is organic. I think you can get away with it, but this isn't, you know, crystal clear by a long shot. This might need to be dipped and all the rest of it, because quite frankly, that's pretty horrible and nasty. But a bit of work, bit of polishing up, re-dip it, I think it'll be absolutely fine. And we've got the side windows down here. I won't bother getting these out. These actually look a lot better. They're clearer. Should have no problem being a flat part. You can just tell by the actual sprue is crystal clear. Yeah, the sprue on this has got bubbles in it. It's quite nasty. It's quite flat looking. But yeah, canopy's not exactly brilliant on that one. So there we go. That is the Wessex. Now we'll just have a quick look in here. I just want to see the differences, if any, that we've got just down in here. Just looking at the parts, they all look to be the same. The sprue, if I'm honest, this sprue here looks nicer. So it's a little bit odd, this one, because this guy in here looks a little bit nicer perhaps than the other one. Maybe because it's an earlier pull, but definitely it's a slightly lighter grey by the looks of it, but the detail looks a little bit deeper, a little bit sharper on this particular one. Just check the clear part. No, that's equally as nasty. Okay. And all the parts, I think, are exactly the same. I can't see any difference down in there whatsoever. Alright. It's just that your differences are, if we show you on the box, your actual ones you get, you can have a little bit of a camo work. We've got, I think that's the Big and Hill one, isn't it? The red one? Oh, there we go. Look, Big and Hill. We've got the Cypress, which is obviously the Akatiri one. Okay, down there. We've got the X3 DTD, Newark one. That's the Newark one, is it? Ah, right, there we go. Number 3. So this one here is the Big and Hill one. This one here is the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Bedford in there, and then we've got the one which is now at Newark Air Museum as well, just down there. Okay, so that is the Akatiri one just down there, as you can see it. Okay, the kit themselves looks to be exactly the same. Okay, in fact it's so much so I think the instructions are dual as well, and all the bits and pieces, so it's just going to be a case of changing them over as you see fit. All right, so there we go. That is something a little bit different. So I'm trying to do this without getting bits stuck to me, because we've got to get all those back in the box in a moment. Okay, as I say, if you've never done a short run kit before or something like these, you might want to just have a rethink about it. They're not the simplest kits to go together. Sometimes you have a few problems. They don't tend to have, like, you know, tabs on that for lining up. It tends to be, you know, Mark 1 eyeball to put them together. Instructions sometimes can be a little bit, you know, vague and things like that. So they're definitely not a kit for the beginner, but I think if you've got moderate skills and some time, then you should have no problem with these. Certainly if you want a Wessex in 1/32, this is your only option on the market. In fact, in 1/48, you're very limited as well. But definitely, if you do want a large-scale Wessex and something to be a little bit different to what you normally see around on the actual show scene, then this is definitely the helicopter for you.